When my husband, Mark, passed away, it felt like the entire world went silent. The kind of silence that clings to you, that echoes in every corner of your home and every part of your soul. He'd been sick for a year, cancer, and while we'd had time to prepare, you're never truly ready to say goodbye to the person you've built your entire life around. I was left with our 17-year-old son, Ethan, who had always been more like his father than me. They both shared the same quiet strength, the same dry sense of humor, the same love for early mornings and black coffee. I had often wondered how Ethan would cope without his dad, how he would navigate those last years of boyhood on his way to becoming a man. For the first few days after the funeral, Ethan barely spoke. He retreated to his room after school, ate dinner without much appetite, and stared into the distance like he was trying to solve a puzzle no one else could see. I tried my best to give him space, even though every instinct inside me wanted to hold him and not let go. I was hurting, too, but I didn't want to burden him. The house felt emptier than it ever had before. The once warm and bustling kitchen felt cold. The living room with Mark's old recliner sitting untouched felt like a museum of memories that made my chest ache every time I passed by. One evening, about 2 weeks after the funeral, I came home from work late. I'd started going back to the small marketing office where I worked part-time, trying to regain some rhythm in my life. I walked in and immediately noticed something strange. The house smelled different, like candles and something sweet baking. I followed the scent to the kitchen and found Ethan, standing in front of the oven, wearing Mark's old apron. "Hey, Mom," he said, smiling faintly. "I tried your banana bread recipe. I hope I didn't burn it." I couldn't find words right away. Ethan hadn't shown any interest in baking before. That recipe had been something I often made for Mark when he was going through chemotherapy and couldn't eat much. He loved it. And now here was our son, attempting to recreate a piece of comfort from our past. The gesture, though simple, was so profoundly thoughtful that I had to look away for a moment to hide the sudden welling of tears. "I just thought, maybe it would make you feel better," he said quietly. I walked up and hugged him, holding on a little longer than usual. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice catching. After that night, things began to shift between us. Slowly, carefully, Ethan and I began to rebuild something new, still rooted in grief, but colored with hope. He started helping more around the house, asking questions about how I was doing, even making me tea in the evenings, which used to be Mark's way of ending the day. I never asked him to, but he started doing it on his own. We began to sit in the living room together, sometimes watching old movies Mark used to love. And once, when I accidentally fell asleep with my head on his shoulder, I felt him gently cover me with a blanket before slipping away. One day in early spring, Ethan came to me holding a cardboard box. "I found this in the garage," he said. "Dad's stuff. Some of his old tools, notebooks, things like that." We sat down and opened it together. Inside were bits and pieces of Mark's life, his favorite pen, the pocket knife he carried for years, faded photos of our first road trip as a couple. But the thing that struck me most was a journal I didn't recognize. It was leather-bound, a little worn, and when I opened the first page, I saw Mark's handwriting. To Ethan, it read, "For when I'm not around anymore." My breath hitched. Ethan leaned in, eyes wide. We looked at each other, unsure of what to say. Then slowly, I handed it to him. "It's for you," I said. He took it with reverence, like it was made of gold. That night, I watched from the doorway as he read it, page by page, tears running down his cheeks. I didn't interrupt. I let him grieve, connect, and understand in his own time. After that night, Ethan changed again, but this time, it was something even deeper. He started waking up early to jog, just like Mark had. He began volunteering at the local shelter on weekends. And then, one morning, he told me he wanted to apply to colleges with psychology programs. "I want to help people," he said. "Like Dad always helped me." I was speechless. This boy, this young man, had taken all the pain, all the confusion and anger and heartbreak, and transformed it into something beautiful. Where I had seen only darkness, Ethan had found direction. A few months later, on what would have been Mark's birthday, Ethan surprised me again. I came home from work to find the backyard decorated with string lights and pictures. There was soft music playing and a small table set for two. On it were Mark's favorite meal and a little framed photo of the three of us at the lake. Ethan stepped out from behind the sliding door holding two plates. I figured, we could celebrate his life, not just mourn it, he said, eyes shining. I covered my mouth, overwhelmed. No words could capture what I felt in that moment. He had planned everything, not out of obligation, but love. We sat outside that night under the stars, sharing memories, laughing through our tears. I felt closer to Mark than I had in months. And it was all because of our son. Later that year, on the anniversary of Mark's death, Ethan gave a speech at his high school assembly about grief, resilience, and the strength we find in one another. Parents and teachers came up to me afterward with tears in their eyes, praising his courage. One woman said her daughter hadn't spoken about her own loss in years, but after hearing Ethan, she opened up for the first time. That's when I realized, my son had not only healed himself but had started helping others heal too. There were still hard days, of course. Grief isn't something you finish, it's something you carry. But because of Ethan, because of his quiet acts of love, the burden felt lighter. The final surprise came the day his college acceptance letter arrived. He'd been accepted into a university with a full scholarship, majoring in clinical psychology. He handed me the letter, beaming, and said, "I'm going to help people, Mom." Just like Dad would have wanted. I held him so tight I thought I'd break. Looking back, I never expected that losing Mark would unlock this kind of strength in our son. I never imagined that in the shadow of such a loss, I would witness something so profoundly beautiful, the transformation of a boy into a man with a heart full of empathy, purpose, and love. Ethan saved me in ways I can never explain. And every day, I thank Mark because I know his spirit, his kindness, and his love live on in our son.